Adam Cook, there's a game from Insomniac called Song of the Deep, which I've seen briefest of images of, but know nothing about. So why don't you fill me in?
Okay, did you play Ori and the Blind Forest?
No, but I did like the look of it. Man does not have an Xbox One.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a metroidvania game. I feel like we probably should invent a new term for that, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what that means, it's a game where
I'm a big fan of those.
Oh, you
games.
are? Me too, actually. Well, in that case, I'm not going to bother explaining it because people will be able to see what this game is.
Guacamelee, best game.
Yep.
Probably in my top 10.
Yeah, Guacamelee is a brilliant game. Ori and the Blind Forest is actually probably my favourite one of that genre.
Okay.
So Song of the Deep, being one of those and being developed by Insomniac, is something that was massively on my radar the second it was announced and made clear what kind of game it was. And it's a very pretty game. It's about a girl called Merrin, but she basically, it's a lovely little sort of cut scenes now and again, and it explains that she lives with her dad, and her dad goes out to sea and does stuff at sea in his little fishing boat, and one day he doesn't come back, and so she builds a submarine. Just like that, instantly, she just builds a submarine and goes under the sea, and thus her adventure begins. Mm-hmm. And the story is generally nice and quite a lovely little story, and like it has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it's a nice story. It also has a really good soundtrack. It's a game that, like, if you stick a pair of headphones on, not only the soundtrack but the actual audio design is very, very good. You know?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
It really does give you that feeling that you're underwater. And it is a Metroidvania in that, like, the map is quite large. Actually, it's very large, I would say, for the size of the game. I completed it in just over 5 hours, but obviously didn't get everything. Okay. And it is a low price release, so those who do equate cost to length.
So one question I've got. So how does this? So if you're in a submarine and you're underwater, that, I presume that means like you're not running on the floor. So does platforming come into it?
No, it's very much how you.
So is
imagine.
it a bit like Child of Light, how you could fly about, and there's not platforming? You just have to have combat every now and then.
I suppose it's got that kind of feel. It controls quite well. The only problem I find with it in terms of controls is that I find a lot of sections of the game have a reliance on water currents.
Okay.
Now, it may just be me, or this may be something that everyone watching goes, God, I hate that stuff. I really don't like that kind of puzzle where, like, a water current catches you and pushes you all over the way, and then you have to go all the way back. Do you know the sort of thing I mean?
Yeah,
I really don't like them, and I don't mind them in a game, but they are used a lot in this one. And in the first half of the game, it's fine. You're unlocking, like, your weapon is like a hook that you can grab like seashells and throw at things, or you can just attack directly, and obviously everything's upgradable because it's
it's combat in the world. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's combat in the world. But like then eventually you find this item that lets her get out of the submarine. She can breathe underwater, and that lets you, again, Metroidvania, that lets you access areas you couldn't because the submarine was too big. Whereas she's small and she's got like a little knife. She can cut like barnacles down and she can get through smaller things. You know, again, it's Metroidvania. Lets you get to bits of the map you couldn't before. Later, I mean, later at some point you get like rockets. There's like a bomb rocket. It's not really a spoiler. At some point you get like a freeze bomb thing, and each of those can be upgraded. Like the freeze thing, you can shoot at things. Like there are like loads of different locked doors. Like there's one that's like a fire door. Again, underwater, doesn't SpongeBob, whatever. You know, it doesn't make sense. It just is. And you shoot those with the ice rocket, and then you can break through them. But also, if you upgrade the ice rocket, you can, as soon as you shoot it, you grab it with your hook, and it puts like a shield around you. But for me, a lot of those upgrades, I didn't really need them. I upgraded at the end because I had a lot of currency. So
it's just there for that being their sake.
Maybe if you played it on hard. I played it on normal. If you play it on hard, it would be difficult, I suppose. The problem is the puzzles.
Okay.
The first half of the game, absolutely fine. Couple of little frustrating moments. Second half of the game, they introduced puzzles that I actually swore at my TV from. We're talking a bomb that you have to roll around. Again, you're dealing with the idea of being underwater, so there is an inherent feeling to being underwater.
Yeah.
And you have to roll these things around, and if they get touched by light, they start a process of exploding. And the idea is you have to get that bomb to a thing you can't reach, so it explodes and flicks a switch or something. Yeah. And that itself is a frustration. Then they introduce the fact that you must freeze them to make them float in the water. So you're having to juggle current. There's one section where there's a laser, right? I didn't capture this, so it won't be in the video. You just have to trust me. There's a laser beam, which if it touches the bomb, it will start the detonation process. And the idea is you have to float it with the ice over it, so that then it goes under it, and then you can get it to where you need to get it to. But in the middle of once you get over it, there's a current that's blowing up from underneath, and I lost track of the amount of times it was such an awkward timing window that I had to get it past that current, and that made me actually swear, like, you know.
Yeah, it sounds a little convoluted. Tell you what it actually makes me think of when you're describing it. Makes me think of how you and Colin both felt of Unravel.
It's not to that degree. I will say straight away, I Unravel genuinely made me rage, whereas this, it's not a case of it not showing you or giving you. Whereas Unravel felt like it never gave you the information you needed. This gives you the information. It's well designed. It's just the latter half is frustrating. There are only 2 bosses in it as well, which I found very strange, because the first boss isn't amazing, but it does vary things up. Then, of course, there's one the final boss thing, which is a very strange encounter. I won't spoil it, but it does fall foul of something that towards the end of the game, it was almost as though someone said, this game's not long enough, let's start throwing in, like, it suddenly introduces this thing where you get locked in a room and it throws waves of enemies at you. And it feels a little bit strange, because the rest of the game, it feels like you're being taught, and it's very natural, and it feels, I say frustrating at times, but well designed.
Chase sequences, Adam.
Yeah, there's a chase sequence in this game. Fucking hell, Dan. Fucking hell. So Ori and the Blind Forest has a chase sequence, which is very difficult, but it feels like this. I don't want to keep comparing it, because Ori and the Blind Forest to me is probably my favourite Metroidvania. But this has a chase sequence. So there's a section of the map where it's pitch black dark, and you have to use your ping, which is another item you can you pick up. The
echolocation.
Yeah, basically it echoes, so you can see the walls and anything else near you. And there are these enemies that can one hit kill you. And that's a new thing that doesn't happen the rest of the game. They if you go near them, they sort of turn around and they suck you into themselves, and you're dead.
Sounds fun.
That in itself isn't great, but once you get down the bottom, there's a save point. So you're like, fine, that's fine. There's a save point in between and above, so I know what I'm doing. You go in and you get this thing you need to get, and the chase sequence starts. Now, I'm not against trial and error as such. The problem with this is these things suddenly come out. You get the item, and then these things
stuck in a
you.
game that doesn't have them.
Well, this thing has checkpoints, but they're checkpoints for the enemy. So the only checkpoint for you is when you get the item and start the chase sequence. So you're running away from 3 of these red enemies, right?
Right.
And you get like a real good space between you and them, and you think, right, I've done it. And then suddenly 3 more come out, and that's like a fourth of the way around the escape course, if you will. And you're like, oh, okay, that's a bit harsh, because I did, whatever. And then you get away from them, and it's like an obstacle course on the way out, all the things that can hurt you and blocks that get in your way, and you get past them, and you're like, right, I've got some distance. Then another 3 come out, and they seem to have this ability to really kind of sort of home in on you. Like, if they get anywhere near your vicinity, you're dead. Like, you can't get away. They just suck you in. Like, and the degree to which they can suck you in feels a little bit like that seems different to last time. Once you do that, like, you never see him again, kind of thing. It's not a problem, but it is very. I think that sequence is bad, whereas the rest of the game is good, decent. Some bits are really good, some are frustrating. That bit I think straight up bad. It's generally a good game. Like, I don't want to seem down on it, because the story's great, the music's great. When it works, like the first half of the game's really good. It's Metroidvania, the map's big, there's loads of stuff to, it does the Metroidvania thing of, now you've unlocked this thing, you can now go back there and back there.
Yeah.
And it does that very well. I just feel like it's like, I don't know if it needed a bit more time, or maybe this is like an idea for a series that would work well. But the puzzles, some of the puzzles are very, very frustrating, and it seems weird to say this, but I kind of wish there was more boss fights. It's a good game, and it's a reasonably priced game. It's just not incredible.
How much is it priced?
I think it's like $15, so it'll be around about 12 to 15 over here. If you're hankering for a Metroidvania game, and you've played through Ori and Definitive Edition, and you've played through Guacamelee and Axiom Verge, like, this is a game that looks good. It has Insomniac's kind of style, And the story is genuinely lovely. I really like the story. That's kind of why I wanted to finish it, to see what happens.
You have me intrigued.
Yeah, it looks good. It sounds
I
good.
like stories.
Yeah, no, the story, like I say, it's what made me want to finish it, because by the end, I was very frustrated with the gameplay. So, yeah.
Well, listener, if you want to read Mick's review on Song of the Deep, you can go over to GodisaGeek.com for those words and for many, many more. If you could be ever so kind, you can go on to patreon.com/GodisaGeek for a couple of pound our way, and it helps us go even further. Cheers.
Should have backed the GodisaGeek Patreon.